How's it going? I'm Anthony, and these are stories of my life. For those of you just joining us for the first time, these videos are a cognitive therapy tool. I have taken some head injuries over the years, my memory's been failing me, and the doctors have suggested that I make these videos to preserve the memories I still have, as well as inspire some of you all who were involved in these events to give me details I may have lost, or even remind me of events I've completely forgotten, in which case then I can remake an old video with new details or make a whole new video for you. I'm sure you get the idea. At any rate, building off of the last video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's pretty funny. It is 1991. I was 13 years old, preparing to go into high school. So it was that summer right before high school. And I was now living with my dad. I'd recently moved in with him. And we were living in Quail Creek Apartments in a one-bedroom apartment in Riverside, California, off the corner of Horace and Arlington Avenue. And it was across the street from California School of the Deaf and walking distance of Pauley High School, Riverside Pauley High School, and pretty close to a bunch of people that I knew. So I was good with it. And the one friend I actually had in the area was Jim Hudson. And so it was within walking distance of his house. And so I was good with it. I was totally good with it. And to give my dad credit where credit was due, he picked a great spot. You know, the area was clean, low crime, right around where we wanted to be. The problem was it was expensive. And my dad, even though he had been doing better, was now having a few financial issues. One, because his truck, which was like a 1980 Dodge Ram or something like that he had forever, was now falling apart. You know, it was mechanical issue after mechanical issue. So we were bleeding a lot of money trying to keep his truck running. And he just didn't have the credit or the extra money to get a whole new truck. So that was the hard part. And it was a Dodge, you know, so it's par for the course. And then second of all, he was getting undercut on jobs that he either had or was trying to get. And, you know, as a landscaper, my dad wasn't just a landscaper, he was a horticulturist. And there's a lot of, 16, 18, 20-year-old kids that are willing to mow your lawn for a discount or cut your bushes or whatever. My dad was above and beyond that. My dad was the kind of person that can completely rejuvenate your entire landscape. So my dad was better suited for wealthy individuals. And most of the population would rather pay discount for lower quality service rather than pay a premium. So that was the hard part. And it was tough for my dad to hold on to certain types of jobs or even get them. But he did have a handful of them that were really good to him. Like, for example, Malcolm Smith. My dad had known him for some time, and my dad was doing a lot at his house, so he got paid pretty well from Malcolm for it. And so that was a good thing. But like I said, with the issues financially, we were strapped, so we couldn't go out and do a lot of things like we wanted. We couldn't afford very many things. The apartment was real simple, one bedroom, bunk beds. But then again, it was just my dad, our cat Peaches, like I said, watched the last video, and myself. So it's all it was. The place where we took the big hit, though, was with food. Now, at the same time, my dad wasn't much of a cook. I wasn't either. I didn't know how. So what I really ate, though, was only like maybe one meal a day. And that consisted of some form of a microwave dinner. And, for example, like a Hungry Man turkey dinner. And that was it. I got like one of them a day. So I was very malnourished. And I was trying to play soccer, which sucked because being malnourished, my body didn't recover like it should have. And so I ended up being weaker than a lot of people and not as fast. I couldn't grow and develop like I should. And my soccer nickname at the time was Shrimp. So it kind of gives you an idea, To make matters worse, coming off of living with my mom, I had been in this mentally and emotionally compromised state. Now I'm living with my dad and I'm not eating very well. So it just kind of makes matters worse. And so you talk about hangry. I was hangry all the time. Ask my friends. All the time. I was an angry little bastard, and it's because I was hangry. And when you don't eat very well, it also screws with your mental state because of the way the hormones and everything work. But to make matters worse, I ran into other issues with my father that I never anticipated. And I was out one day, I don't know what I was doing, probably just out screwing around. And I came home to find my dad sitting on the couch in the living room just crying his eyes out. What the fuck? So I walk in, I'm like, Dad, you okay? And he's just bawling. So I sit down on the couch next to him, and I'm trying to get him to talk to me, but he's crying so hard he can't. Now my dad, if you don't know him or didn't know him, was 6'3", about 250 pounds, big man, to the point where, even now I still have his old wedding ring. It doesn't fit on my thumb. Like, that's how big his hands were. And so it's this large dude, and I'm so tiny. And this is my dad. This is my dad that adopted me. He's the man I'm looking up to, And he's just bawling. And so I just give him a hug, and I'm trying to console him. But I don't know what's going on. I thought everything was okay. And he starts telling me about how he ruined his life. He lost everything. He's a failure. He's apologizing to me like crazy. And he just wants to kill himself. And he's just wants to die, And I can still hear his voice. I still hear the sound of his crying. And I can see it. I can almost feel it, when I was holding him. The shaking sensation is when he's sobbing. And I had just come off of a year of my mom telling me every single day that it was my fault. My mom saying, your fault. You're the reason we lost everything. You're the one that ruined our lives. We never should have adopted you. You were the worst mistake we ever made. You never should have been born. I wish you were dead. You were the reason all this happened. My mom said that to me every day for a year. And now I'm seeing my father crying his eyes out and telling me he wants to die because his whole life is ruined. And now, to my dad's credit, my dad never put the blame on me. Never once said, you did it. He's always said it was me. I failed. I'm the one that screwed everything up, and I'm sorry. But because of everything my mom had said to me, I'm now thinking, no, this is my fault, Dad. I'm the one that ruined your life. I'm the reason you want to kill yourself. And so that screwed me up really bad. To make matters worse, it wasn't a one-time thing. It happened probably about every other day. So imagine this. 2-3 times a week, I've got to sit here and console my father and do everything I can to talk him out of suicide. And these things go on for hours. We could be up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning having these conversations where I'm trying to talk him out of killing himself. And I wanted to die myself. I was essentially suicidal at the time anyway. I just didn't understand what suicide really was because I was an immature at 13. So I didn't realize that was an option, that I could off myself. Otherwise, I probably would have, given everything I had gone through. But now I'm talking to my dad, trying to talk him out of killing himself and trying to come up with every reason on the sun for him not to. You talk about a conundrum, it screwed with me really bad. And then I'm hangry as hell because I hadn't eaten, and I'm trying to keep that in check as I'm talking to my dad, not be mad at what he's doing. Oh my God, I was all over the place. I was so screwed up from all this. And it was every other day. So 2-3 times a week, I've got to deal with this. And it was bad. It was really, really bad. But I dealt with it. I had to. You got no choice. And whenever I could, I'd try to get out of the house just to get some me time. And 90% of the time, I went over to Jim's house just to see what he had going on. And I'd end up hanging out with Jim and his brother Joe or Jeff, and we might be out throwing a football out in the street or whatever it might be. And Nikki Heiliger and her brother Eric, remembered his name now. And you had Wendy, Melissa Thornton, Brandon, Jason, Bob down the road. And we try to hang out with all of them. And I always enjoyed that. In that whole area, though, that none of them really were my friends. They were actually Jim's friends. You had Gabe Pena, Mike Pena, Richard Barbeau, Ian Shaw, Ryan Law, Aaron Morton, Tommy, I can't remember his last name, Mike Maloney. You had a whole bunch of people. But they were all friends with Jim. And they all were in their, essentially, might as well be their own pack, their own little tribe, if you will. I was an outcast. I was an outsider. I knew Jim. I was friends with Jim, but I wasn't part of their group. I wasn't part of their team, so to speak. I was just a weird kid that Jim knew that maybe Jim was doing a charity case on, And so they tolerated me being there, but I don't think anybody really liked me. I don't think anybody really wanted me there. They weren't particularly nice to me at that age. I think they more wanted me to leave rather than anything, so they were probably that way just to see if I would leave. But, like I said, because I was Jim's friend, they tolerated me at best. And that's the way it was. And I don't blame them. I was a weird kid. I was kind of an asshole too, because I was hangry all the time. But then all of that changed one day. And it was one single event that did it. Now, we were all over at Gabe's house. And we decided to walk from Gabe's house to, I believe it was Tommy's house. That was, you got to go up Horace, cross Lincoln, and then one block over, there was a opening in the wall where you could walk up. You couldn't drive a car right up to it, but you could, as a pedestrian, get through there and go up that road. So we were all walking up there, and literally everybody was there, maybe with the exception of Tommy, but I think even Tommy was there. We're all walking together. And as we were heading up there, we get to Lincoln Avenue. Now, Lincoln's a major road, so it's usually really busy, but it was 8:30 at night. Not a lot of people on the road. And as we were crossing, all of a sudden this silver truck appears out of nowhere. And it starts hauling ass toward us. Like whoever was in the driver's seat just stomped on the gas pedal and started flying at us, coming at us from Gage. And to the point where everybody in the group had to scatter and run, otherwise they were going to get hit. So everybody hauls ass, runs across the road, or runs back and dives out of the way. And this truck, like I said, just hauling toward us, even swerved toward our group, except one person. I didn't move. I stood my ground right there in the road, threw my arms out, and was like, what? Come on, hit me, bitch. The truck swerved toward me, and him and I made eye contact. And that was when I realized it wasn't some young kid. It was dude probably in his 40s, maybe 50s. And at the last second, he thought I was going to move. The last second, he had to swerve away. It was a game of chicken. I don't lose a fucking game of chicken. Dude turned away, and his bumper missed my knee probably by 4, maybe 6 inches. His tire actually almost ran over my foot. And anyway, he swerved away and continued up Lincoln, and he's laughing, right? And he drives off, and I'm like, that motherfucker, I throw my hands up, flip him off, and whatever else. So we end up walking across the road, and now Jim's like, oh, Anthony, you crazy bastard. And then now everybody else in the group is giving me shit for standing out in the middle of the road and almost getting hit, ridiculing me about it. It's a bad thing. So I'm losing reputation and clout points at this point. And Jim didn't care. He thought it was funny. And I think I remember even hearing Ian give me a hard time about it. How stupid was that to stand there in the middle of the road? But as I'm watching this truck drive away, and we crossed the road by now, and we're about to head up the road, I watch the truck drive away, all of a sudden I see his tail lights turn up. Brake lights come on. And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to turn. He's either going to turn, I think it was at Branna at this point, and I had a friend that lived to the right up Branna named Nathan Graham. But I thought he was going to turn, toward Nathan's house, or he could have went left, I guess. but he ended up flipping a bitch. So I stepped into the shadows now, and I'm watching his truck, and he's turning around. And then Jim comes up, he's like, "What are you doing, man?" I said, "The guy turned around." So I'm just watching and watching. Lo and behold, the guy ends up parking his truck literally across the street from where we were. But he didn't see us because I'm hiding in the shadows now. Most of the rest of the group started up the road. And so I watched this guy get out of his truck, lock his door, walk up to the front door of the house, and use his key to get into the front door. And shuts behind him. And all of a sudden, I just start walking toward his truck. And it was, "Anthony, what are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Just give me a minute." I walk up to the truck, whip out my pocket knife, pop, 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 stab my knife into the sidewall of all 4 of his tires. And I start walking back. Didn't run. Everybody else freaks out, and they go running up the street towards Tommy's house. And they're just flying, trying to get away. I just walk. Nice, casual speed. Walk up the road. Didn't care. By the time I get to Tommy's now, everybody's like, "What the hell?" Blah! Flipping out at me. So my clout points are crashing. Everyone's mad at me for doing this and this and that. And finally, again, it was Ian. He says, "What the fuck did you do that for, man?" And all I did was said one thing. I looked at him right in the eye and I said, "You don't fuck with my friends." At that point, everything changed. Ian literally took that statement and just, all right, and even Richie kind of was nodded and okay, and everybody kind of had that same response, like, "All right, I get it, I get it," and I don't think they expected such an extreme response from me, but that's me, that's how I do things, that's how I roll. So after that, it was like now I was a member of the tribe. They accepted me into the pack. So it was cool at that point. They treated me different. I was still that awkward, weird kid, and I got that a lot from them. But now I was at that status where, imagine that little brother that you pick on. You almost kind of don't like him, but he's part of the family. You might beat him up, but if anybody else tries to fuck with him, you're going to beat their ass, right? Like that was me. For Marines, it's like Doc, your corpsman. He's a Navy guy. He's in your platoon. He's not a Marine, but he is part of your platoon. You love him, but you screw with him, but nobody else can. That was me. So now I'm part of this tribe, and after that, it was good. They understood. They got me. They got my mentality. And so that helped. That helped a lot. But I was still struggling. And every night I would come home and find my dad in tears and wanting to kill himself. And there was a few times that I wasn't there when he actually tried. And I might be over at Jim's house or Gabe's house. And I think I was at Jim's house once in the middle of dinner. And it was cool because every now and then I would get to eat dinner at Jim's or Gabe's, and then I would actually eat more than once a day. But I remember a phone call or something came in, or somebody showed up to the door. I think it was either a cop or a fireman. And I had to go to the hospital with them because my dad tried to kill himself, and I don't know the deal, But yeah, I'd end up at the hospital and a psych ward. And I needed a lot of time to myself to process this because, like I said, I wanted to die. And at one point, I would always go out to my favorite thinking spot. My favorite thinking spot was at the top of what we call Target Hill. And Target Hill was called Target Hill because it was behind Target, and it was a hill. And from the top of Target Hill, you could look down over Target and see the School for the Deaf, if you're looking this way. To the left of Target was my dad's apartment complex. Further left, you could see up towards Gabe's house. To the right, you got the train tracks, Riverside Plaza. Behind you, you had Olivewood Cemetery. And I would spend a lot of time just sitting up on this hill, many times crying my eyes out because I was such an emotional wreck. And just thinking and wishing, how do I die? How can I die? And I'd gotten to the point where I couldn't kill myself because I'd spent so many hours talking my dad out of suicide that it kind of talked me out of suicide. So I couldn't do it myself. Now, if something else killed me, fine. I was good with that. Hence, me not losing a game of chicken. I didn't care. What are you going to do? Kill me? Fine. Good. I want that. But I spent all this time up there just thinking and thinking. And I can remember one night in particular that monsoons come in. Because like I said, summertime. And, it was cool. It was so awesome. Clouds were dark. It was just black, as you can imagine. Rain pouring in. Just dumping everywhere. Wind coming in sideways. I had rain hit me in the side of the face, hit me in the face because it was swirling around the way the terrain was. I had this trench coat on, this black trench coat, with a hood, and I had that over my head, but I was soaked, soaking wet. Rain just pouring down all over me, sitting on top of this hill. Well, the craziest part was the lightning. It was the lightning. You had this rolling lightning going through the skies, just everywhere. But then you had lightning that was hitting the ground. Oh, it was crazy. Just boom, boom, boom. And I can remember a few times you can feel the electricity in the air. Your hair just standing on end. You get this tingling sensation. And I can remember one of them being hit like right behind me, and just everything was standing on. Boom! Oh man, I jumped so freaking high. It was just the coolest thing to see, lightning striking the ground 15 feet in front of you. And then I would get upset that it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. I don't know why it didn't, but someone up there felt I had to stick around a while longer. Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was mentally. It was rough. I wanted to die, but I couldn't kill myself. And everything was my fault. I ruined everything. Like, that was me mentally. And dealing with my dad, trying not to let him kill himself, and starving every day, malnourished, angry, hangry. It was bad. It was bad. That's the way it was. I'm sure some of you looking back on it now, hearing this, it probably explains a lot. So, at any rate, that's all I got for now. It's kind of a long video. If you've got any details from that time period that I may have missed, let me know. If you remember any specific events, please leave them in the comments or hit me up directly. Thank you for watching.